All right, this is the Big Douglas Show. It is a reactionary Thursday. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So hop in the comments, let us know what you think. And away we go. Rapper Big Pooh, uh, Chad
Yeah.
Ryan, and Swaggy, all
What's up?
here to talk a little bit about the news of the day. Fellas, it's Carson Wentz. Let me, I got the numbers here real quick just so we can just so I can share them with you. Let's see. Let me pull these up real quick here. My computer is going slow.
I don't like it. I don't care what you're pulling up.
All right. Good.
I
Thank
don't
you.
like any former Eagles coming to play for the Washington Commanders.
Is that the only reason why?
No, it's like if he was really that good, teams wouldn't have given him up so easy. Not like they didn't get compensation for him, but if you're a franchise quarterback, guys do everything in their power to hang on to that guy, especially when you're young. And there's a reason why he's keep bouncing around from team to team. You just don't see great locker room quarterbacks bounce around the way he's been bouncing around. And it's almost when he first started playing, I remember when he was in our division, guys were comparing him to Tom Brady, like, oh, this is the greatest quarterback we've seen since Brady, da, da, da. And he started off hot. And then I don't know what happened, what injury happened, but everything just went downhill. And there were always a lot of reports about how he wasn't really a locker room guy when things went bad. He wasn't the type of quarterback to bring guys together. He kind of like pushed guys away and stayed to himself. And with all the stuff that's going on in D.C. and his D.C. media and market, it could be hell for him if that's the kind of guy he is, But I don't know. He's good, but
He's an immediate upgrade over Heineke. And maybe the best quarterback we've had in the building since, dare I say, Cousins.
This is Mr. Beautiful Stats.
Yeah.
See, if you're comparing Carson Wentz and Kirk Cousins, I think Kirk Cousins' floor is higher than Carson Wentz's floor, but Carson Wentz's ceiling is higher than Kirk Cousins' ceiling. The problem with Carson Wentz is there's too much inconsistency between those extremes, right? Where Kirk Cousins, that inconsistency was a lot smaller. So he never reached those highs, but he never really had those lows that Carson Wentz has had. So like if Scott Turner and, the offensive staff here can tighten that inconsistency up with Carson Wentz, he can be good. Like, do I love the trade? No, but he can be really good.
Because I still don't see him being the future of our team. This may be like a 2-year thing, and they'll probably still draft a quarterback and still try to groom that guy for the future. But for us to have a new team and a new brand, I didn't feel like Carson Wentz will be the face of the franchise quarterback that we would get for our first time being the Commanders.
I look at it,
Chris.
like
Let's put it like this, though. You've got a jacket, and Carson Wentz does not. So at the moment, you're still in front.
If Washington still drafts a quarterback to groom, I'm not mad at the move. I get it. I understand it. You're trying to you got somebody with the physical tools to and the history that says he can, play a little bit to hold you over until that young quarterback can get his bearings and be ready to play in the NFL. If you're betting on Carson Wentz to be your quarterback of the future, boy, oh boy, this was the panic move of all panic moves.
Well, it did reek of desperation.
Absolutely.
But they are getting desperate at this point, though. I mean, Trubisky doesn't have to come here. That's why you make this trade, because you can force him to come. You can force yourself into a quarterback, and that was not going to happen in free agency.
It could have been Carson Wentz or nobody. And
exactly.
I think he's a lot better option than any other quarterback that's pretty much out there. I mean, everyone was hoping for Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, but that didn't happen. Or Deshaun Watson, who knows what's going to happen with his case that's coming up. I think he has some type of court hearing or something. So that was the safest pick out of all those guys. I don't think Jameis is going to leave New Orleans. So it was like, I'll take Carson Wentz over Mitch Trubisky or Jimmy Garoppolo. I just want the good Carson Wentz, because when Carson was on, he was on.
Look, Carson gonna give you about 6-7 games where he's gonna look like an MVP candidate.
Right,
It's,
right.
It's them other.
And don't forget, the Colts won 3 games the year before he got there. I mean, they won 9 games last year. They lost to the Titans twice.
Right.
And,
the
I'm telling
Colts
you,
had a very tough schedule last year. Very tough. And they missed the playoffs by 1 game.
So did Washington. But if they don't lose that, if they win that Chargers or that Jaguars game at the end of the year, we're not even having this conversation because he's still there.
Look, he makes a lot of mistakes. Well, he cleaned up a lot of those in Indianapolis. But dare I say, this may be the best, or has the potential to be the best receiving core that he has ever had in his 6 years in the NFL. Even if Washington doesn't add another, big time receiver with just a healthy Samuels and Terry McLaurin, and hopefully bring back like a Cam Sims or somebody. This is going to be the best.
Brown now has
De'Ami Brown. Going into his second year. This is going to be the best receiver room he's had.
The year that he was on track for an MVP was the Deshaun Jackson year. I mean, that's the best receiver he's had is Deshaun Jackson. And I mean,
so the problem with Carson Wentz now is that the best games he's ever played have been against Washington. And if you're playing for Washington, does that translate? I'm not entirely sure. It'll be fun to see. But I'll tell you what I find interesting in this conversation when we're talking about quarterbacks is that now 2 teams in the top 11 picks who desperately needed a quarterback have looked at the rookie quarterbacks available and opted to take a veteran. So, we've heard for months now that this is a good quarterback class. Around the combine and stuff like that, the hype machines and the PR machines swell up and people go, maybe Pickett, maybe Willis and stuff. But now we've got 2 teams in the top 11 picks who needed a quarterback, looked at the rookies and said, no, thank you. That's very telling, if you ask me.
Which is why I'd be stunned if they draft quarterback round 1 now.
Yeah, I think that's definitely not happening. Now, I wouldn't rule out a mid to late round quarterback, especially because they're not re-signing Kyle Allen. But I don't think a quarterback's in play in round 1 anymore.
I think round 2 or 3, he might go reach for a quarterback.
Well, they don't have a round 3
one of those
anymore,
guys slides like Carson Strong or Ritter or something like that. Yeah.
I think this was as Swaggy said, this was the best of the rest. Are we happy about it? No, but this is the best of the rest. Like it's like I told my guys in the group chat yesterday. Okay, you don't like Carson Wentz. Okay, that's fine. That's understandable. But you're going up for Teddy Bridgewater, who's about to be on his 4th team in as many years. You're going up for Trubisky, who, if anybody has the intel on Trubisky, what he's done in his 1 year in Buffalo is going to be Ron, because the guys who run in Buffalo used to work at Carolina with Ron. And then you have Mariota, who can't stay healthy either and lost his job to Tannehill. So it's like, dude, you look at it like this is Carson Wentz. This may be his last chance as a starter in the NFL.
Definitely.
He has to get this right. And this also is a big job for Scott Turner and whoever the quarterback coach is. Now it's time to earn your money. Scott Turner turned him around. Scott Turner be up for some open jobs in the next couple of years. He can turn Carson Wentz around. So it's like, hey, man, we all rolling the dice. This is the corner that Ron and Co painted themselves in when they went out campaigning for an experienced quarterback in the offseason.
Yep. But I'm not even gonna BS you, bro. If we can get the Carson Wentz that's effective, he was a hard quarterback to play because he could make all the throws and he could use his feet. Surprisingly, people are surprised at how fast he is once he gets moving. He's a pretty mobile quarterback. And if we could just put those together and limit the turnovers and just let him get Terry the ball, we'll be a good team with our defense, and hopefully they get everything together and get on the same page. But, I'm not terribly upset about the pick, but it just wasn't what I was expecting. We could have just drafted a guy and then, rolled the dice like that. At least we have someone who we kind of know what he can do, what he's capable of, and hopefully we get the best of him.
I don't think Ron has an affinity for young quarterbacks. I think he's been going too hard on like he's ready to win. Like
Right.
that whole this is a process. We retool and rebuild and whatever. All that talk. He's trying to win games, and
Yeah,
he
it's time to
knows.
go.
Yeah, he
Especially
knows,
in our
especially in Washington. I think Jay Gruden, and of course, Dan Snyder wasn't going to fire Joe Gibbs. He let him do what he wanted, but Jay Gruden was the only quarterback outside of Joe Gibbs that actually lasted his entire contract. Ron know that.
Well, and I did a little poking around about this. My understanding is this was not everybody was not on board with this one. So I'm still curious about whose decision this was. I think the Martys wanted to draft quarterback for sure because that's what they do. I'm not sure whether it was Coach or Dan that got involved. I hope it was not Dan that got involved. I'd like football people making decisions.
Right.
But I also heard today too, though, that out in Indianapolis, that was more of an owner that fell out of love with Carson Wentz, not the general manager and the head coach, and that there were going to be multiple teams in on Carson Wentz before it was all done. So to me, now I would have preferred not having to pay the whole 28. That's where I kind of feel like they lost me a little bit on this deal, is paying the whole $20 million salary, because it crushed most of the cap that we have left. Not that the cap is a real thing. So I think, I guess I'm just saying, when you hear all about how horrible Carson Wentz is as a teammate and how he didn't get it done the last 2 games of the season, there was going to be a lot of interest in him, and they paid pretty much, I think, what would end up being the going rate. Now I'd be curious to see if San Francisco lets Garoppolo go, which is, again, I'm not sold that they will. We'll see what they pay for him.
Yeah. So 2 things on that. The Carson Wentz and the Jim Irsay thing, you're spot on. My mail is that that relationship started breaking down around Carson Wentz's vaccination status, and that he wouldn't get vaccinated, and that Jim Irsay was, he had comments in the media like, you need to be able to depend on your quarterback, and if you're not vaccinated, you can't depend on them. And that relationship really broke down from there. And beyond that, once that broke down, Frank Reich, who, in his first year in the job, didn't fight for Carson Wentz. He sort of, he aligned himself closer to Jim Irsay, which is, a self-preservation move for Frank. The other thing is that, you're right. Like if Carson Wentz was released, there would have been a lot of teams in on him. But Washington knew that if he was released and it was a free agent, they probably wouldn't get him. So this trade is, in essence, paying 3rd-round picks for the security of getting him. It's not so much the value for the quarterback. You're paying for the security of getting him. Because at the moment, the sad reality is for Washington, we're not a team that free agents are desperate to come to.
Especially quarterbacks.
That's the kind of price you have to pay. This is the tax of doing business when you've got an unpopular owner.
I think people, they didn't understand. Matthew Stafford didn't want to go to Washington. He wanted to go play for McVay with the Rams. So Detroit did him a solid and sent him to the Rams. It wasn't that, Detroit had the best offer, so to speak. The same with Russell Wilson.
We did have a better offer than Denver.
We had a better offer than Denver.
Our opening offer was better than what Denver ended up paying, and we had room to move as well. Like, we started with 3 years of first-round picks, and we're willing to include like a Daron Payne and keep talking. But Seattle were like, no, it's a non-starter. Russell Wilson doesn't want to.
No
Washington.
He wasn't even on the leaked teams list last year when his agent put the teams list out. So, even non-quarterback Amari Cooper, when he spurned Washington, who offered him a bigger deal than Dallas did, and he spurned Washington to go back to Dallas. So this isn't a sexy destination. So you're going to have to, quote unquote, overpay to get guys here. So with Carson, it's like, it's 1 year guaranteed, but it's 3 years on the deal. So,
which is why it's so important to try to lock up the guys you have in the building. And, they are probably going to lose Brandon Scherf, but then you got to keep Terry McLaurin, and you got to extend Chase Young when that window opens. Like, the higher top tier talent we have in the building, we got to keep them, because it's really hard to attract it elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Chris, I keep hearing more and more about the team actually wanting to extend Daron Payne and keep him. Can you pay both of those guys $17 million? I mean, I was trying to think of other teams that have kind of invested that much along the defensive line, but I heard they're serious about it.
No doubt about it. It's hard to find two premier defensive tackles. And now that you drafted two of them and they're young, you keep those guys around. You can't find those guys off the street. And Deron and John Allen are, two former teammates at Alabama who won national championships. And hopefully that can translate in the NFL. And hopefully they can win a couple of championships here in Washington. But he's been a good player. Like, what player wouldn't want a Deron Payne on their team? Obviously
got some fight in him.
Right. I mean, he has the fight. He has the grit that you want in your defensive linemen. Like, you want all your defensive tackles to play with that edge and be a little cuckoo. You know what I mean? And he's definitely one of those guys that you sign up to get anytime you have a chance to have him. And I'll be super excited to have him because there's no telling what you may get out of a rookie, what's available in the draft, how those guys are going to pan out. You know what you have in Deron Payne. You know he's going to stop the run. You know he's going to be solid against the pass. And he's going to be a good football player. And anytime you have a chance to lock that up, you take advantage of that as soon as possible.
Yeah, agree with everything Chris just said about the on-field stuff. In terms of the off-field stuff, the Matt Ioannidis contract extension makes it a little tricky in the short term to extend Deron Payne. So that's why I think we've seen Deron Payne linked to so many trades, potentially like the Russell Wilson trade. But if you want to keep Deron Payne after this season, you probably need to trade or release Matt Ioannidis. It's real tricky to get all of John Allen, Deron Payne, and Matt Ioannidis, who's on a reasonably large contract, like not a small contract, at that one position. It's, as with everything, salary cap in the NFL, it's not impossible. Numbers are made up and there's magic all the time, but tricky to keep all three at a premium price.
They asked, who did you see this? They asked Landon Collins to take 2 pay cuts.
Yeah. Landon was like, I was going to take the first one, but then you asked to cut it further. Nah, I'm good. I take my chances in free agency. I feel him on that one.
Look, no one's going to begrudge that. It's a little tricky when you deal with Landon Collins as well because he grew up a Washington fan. Sean Taylor was his idol. He wanted to come here. He, wears 26 out of homage to Sean Taylor, and to see it sort of not work out in the long run.
Dan gave him the autographed Sean Taylor jersey and everything.
It was going to be tricky for him either way because Ron, he has to move Jamin to the outside.
Yep.
And Holcomb has to be on the outside. They have to get another linebacker to come in and play the middle because neither one of them guys are middle linebackers. That was going to eat into Collins where his strength is anyway. So it was already going to be tricky bringing Collins back because, dude, you're a Buffalo nickel now. Like you're not a strong or free safety anymore. At least on this team. So it was always going to be tricky with Collins. And
Chris, how does that work? Who does that? Like, who comes in and says, "Hey, we need you to take a pay cut"? Like, how does that process work?
Wow, I got scared because of that dog in the background.
That's Hank.
Hank is not about pay cuts, I can assure you.
I'm not. When it comes to pay cuts, it's pretty much the agent. The team contacts the agent, and the agent connects with you and figure out where's your mind at. Are you willing to take a pay cut, or are you happy with taking your chances on the market? But it's never like you're in the building and the GM comes downstairs and grab you up and talk to you about taking a pay cut. That rarely happens. It's pretty much through the agent, and the agent contacts the player, and then they just have a discussion. And it's pretty much phone tag back and forth and seeing what the agent can do. How can he turn some of your base salary into a signing bonus to help it for a better cap situation for the team. So instead of you making, let's say, $12 million this year, you probably get a $10 million signing bonus, and then you have 2 on the salary. You know what I mean? So, but the agent and the player pretty much take care of that, and then the agent just communicates with the team president or the GM, whoever's making the decisions regarding the team.
Yeah.
It was about 1 year ago now that they signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. And it's interesting because the national media at the time, Bill, you remember, we had all kind of folk on saying, no, that makes a lot of sense. We like what the offense can be. You replaced basically Fitzpatrick with Wentz, and it feels like the national guys are a whole lot lower on the idea of it, and I'm not sure why.
price point.
Well,
Okay.
you got to think
Yeah.
too how much we're paying for Wentz, and then look at his success as a quarterback. It's just that's not the green light. You lost to the worst team in the NFL with a chance to go into the playoffs last year. What franchise really wants to be like, hey, that's the guy I want?
It reminds me so much of Kirk when he couldn't win that game, and Bruce was like, not going to do it. Just not.
But you know what, though? I hate when that happens, bro, because sometimes it's really, the quarterback always gets to blame because he's always, ahead of the team. But I remember, my last game in Washington, and we had a win and get in situation. We lost to the Giants when they sat their starters. And, immediately everybody looked at Kirk Cousins like, how did Kirk Cousins lose this? But there were so many different things that we could have did as a defense to help Kirk out that we failed at. And, it sucks that the quarterback gets the blame, but it's a team game. Football is really one of those games where it's really a team game. Like, no quarterback will have success without a decent defense. No matter what that quarterback does, he needs that defense to make a stop. No defense is really as good, or the pass rush is not as good without a quarterback that could put points up and get you a lead. I'm pretty sure if you put Aaron Donald, he's a great player in his own right. But if you put him on a team that's always down 10 points, he probably won't have the sack numbers that he has. But he's always
you're exactly right.
Lead. He's always able to pin his ears back. So one helps the other. And it sucks that the quarterback always gets blamed, but he's also the highest paid guy on the team. So I guess you could blame him anyway.
Man,
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, once Russell Wilson went to Denver, and of course Aaron Rodgers, went back to Green Bay.
Aaron Rodgers was
Washington
never a
fans
star.
wasn't going to be happy with anything that happened after
Except
that.
for Watson.
But it would have been people who wouldn't have been happy about that either because of the situation, and then Washington's own situation that's still ongoing. Like that would have
made perfect sense.
That would have been a PR nightmare, man.
Yeah. I had inside word from quite a while ago that Watson, they quickly looked at him and quickly said no, like not while he's got the cloud over his head. And they were like, if his legal situation clears up, we'd be interested. But if his legal situation cleared up, everyone would be interested, and he wouldn't have been. Washington wouldn't have been the team
he has a no trade clause as well.
Yeah.
So he get to, when the time comes, he get to determine where he ends up as well. So it's just one of them things. It wouldn't have been a happy situation for somebody, for a faction of fans, supporters, or whoever. And especially in Washington, I just get out of the whether I like it or don't like it mindset, and I try to understand the move. And as I'm reading in between the lines. Ron has been saying veteran quarterback this whole offseason.
Yep.
So we knew he wasn't going to depend on the rookie. And then you see how the quarterback dominoes were falling. It was going to be a Jimmy G, Carson Wentz, Teddy Bridgewater musical chairs situation going on. Like you weren't getting anything. Exactly. Exactly.
Look, if you're Ron Rivera, it makes sense, right? You just went 7-10 with Taylor Heineke as your quarterback, and like most of your best players missing large chunks of the season to injury. You lost Chase Young, you lost Logan Thomas, you lost Landon Collins, Curtis Samuel, etc. So with minor improvements, you have to think that you can compete for the division. And once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. Like, it's not crazy for Ron Rivera to think this team isn't that far away. Because
Carson Wentz is the second best quarterback in the division already.
Right.
That's right.
Already.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, we got 7-10 with Taylor Heineke.
I think we can win 10 games with
at least.
Yeah.
At least.
If we have a good run with injuries this year, which we absolutely did not last year.
We've been cursed in the last 8 years with injuries.
Yeah, well, thank you, FedEx Field.
I know.
Chris, when we started this thing, you seemed upset about it. Maybe it feels like a little therapy session here. You come around a little bit.
No, it's like I said before, I don't like Wentz, but he was the best thing that we could have got. You know what I mean? So obviously I want success for the organization. So this was the best thing that they could have done was grabbing a Wentz. I'm a lot more satisfied with Wentz than I would have been with Mitch Trubisky or Jimmy G. You know,
yeah.
And I played against him. I played against him when he was considered one of the best at the time, and his touchdown to interception ratio, it was like 28-2. It was like the best thing in the league. So
27-7 last year.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like when he's on, he's on. It's just what Carson are we going to get? Are we going to get an injured Carson? Or are we going to get a guy that's going to, you know, give up the ball on sacks when he's getting hit and fumble the ball a lot? Are we going to get a guy when it's 2 minutes left and we need the offense to get 3 points or 7 points? Can we depend on that guy? So it's going to, you know, I'm in between. I wanted something bigger and better, but I'm happy with what we got, and I'm just interested in seeing how it plays out.
I likened it yesterday
exactly
on
right.
Twitter to getting up to bat, which thank goodness MLB's back. That's nice. Swinging for the fences and hitting a double. You know what I mean? Like that's what this was to me. They got up there, took a big hack. I respect it, and you know they connected and hit a double. And
I think
you're right.
The emotional
Trubisky,
response.
for sure.
Yeah, I think the emotional response to a lot of fans, and you know, Chris is a prime example of having. It's not at the outcome; it's at the situation. They wish we weren't in this situation. The outcome, Carson Wentz, you know, is probably one of the better outcomes we could get given the constraints around this team at the moment.
Yeah, I mean,
the constraints are what they're annoyed at, not the outcome.
Yeah,
right. If we had no off the field issues with the organization and the owner, guys would probably be lining up to play in Washington.
Russell Wilson would be our quarterback.
Right, because they know Washington pays great and da-da-da-da, but no one wants to sign up for the mess that we have in the front office or in the ownership. It's kind of hard for you to bet your future with one team when you don't even know what's going to happen with the owner.
Especially a quarterback, because
you're
going to get peppered with them questions.
Right.
Right. Like, I just got here.
Deshaun Watson is not coming.
And there's more questions for Dan Snyder than answers right now. So, like, what franchise guy or proven guy is going to want to come to an organization where the owner can't even really face the media? You know, so,
and the beauty about Wentz is it's $28 million. It's expensive, but it's actually this is the first time we've had to pay starting quarterback money in a while too, right? Like that's what we're actually doing here. It is not the 50 they just slapped Aaron Rodgers, you know what I mean?
The most money we've paid at quarterback since the second time we franchised Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. We franchised Kirk Cousins twice, so we, you know,
and it's 1 year. If you don't want it, get out after this year. But they've got options for the next 3 years. So if it works well, as they hope it does, I mean, they didn't give up this kind of draft picks unless they thought it was going to work. I mean, you just don't give up. I don't care how pressured they felt, that kind of draft capital. If you don't feel like at some level you got a chance of making this thing work.
You do if you're going after a quarterback, bro. Like
this is what you got to remember, right? They wouldn't give up draft capital for a rookie last year to go up and get a Justin Fields.
That's right.
Right? But they gave up draft capital to bring in a Carson Wentz. So that tells you how they feel about Carson Wentz versus how they felt about Justin Fields or who was left last year. When
it also tells you, Ron has told us too, though, that he regrets not putting more in the bag for Stafford last year. So I think he also learned from his mistake and said, "Hey, there isn't too much to pay if you think he's the right guy." So did they overpay? I mean, financially, I think they did. The draft capital, I don't care.
Nah.
And what I'm about to say, I don't want this to indicate that I think Carson Wentz is a 1 year rental and then he'll definitely be gone next year. But if things don't work out and we are in the quarterback market next year, it is a much better time to look for a quarterback. The 2023 draft class is excellent. And the 2023 free agent class, as it stands at the moment, and things change with, extensions and stuff, there are much better quarterbacks available at free agency next year as well. So it's not the worst move to say, we've got Carson Wentz on a 1 year deal. He needs to prove it. We need to see it. If it doesn't work out, we can go again next year.
But this happens a lot, though, with a lot of players, though, especially when you're fighting for your legacy. When you have that 1 year, I need to prove it. I need to make it happen. A lot of guys go out there and prove it. Like, hey, I am the guy to have. So hopefully that situation works out here in Washington. Because I just know personally, like when when you're on your last year of your contract, it's like, hey, this is contract year. I gotta bring it. I gotta do everything I can to let everyone know that I'm the guy for this franchise. I don't want this team to let me go. So in that sense, it could work out. You know, it could work out, especially at quarterback. And you definitely see how we didn't give up draft picks for a rookie quarterback, but we've given it up for a quarterback who they studied on film and said, hey, I think we can get it done with this guy. We got it done with Taylor Heineke. I think Wentz will be a much more of an upgrade. And we made it to the playoffs with Heineke. So you put Wentz into that equation, I think we a 10, 11, 12 team win. You know, if we could do it with Heineke, we won 7-8 games with Heineke. There's no reason why Wentz can't come in and win 10 or 11 games if everything plays out the way it's supposed to play out.
The schedule isn't going to be as tough.
I just want to say something real quick about Heineke. Taylor Heineke will be the backup quarterback this year, and he is an excellent backup quarterback. He is the exact kind of quarterback you want in that quarterback's room as a backup. He is what we always wanted Colt McCoy to be when Colt McCoy was here, right? And I love Colt McCoy, but he was hurt as a backup. He had limitations as a backup. He never had that experience that Taylor Heineke got because he didn't have a choice last year. I will go to the floor for Taylor Heineke as a backup quarterback. He is exactly what this team needs.
He is the new age. What's his name? We just said it. I'm drawing a blank.
Colt McCoy.
Yeah, Colt McCoy. He's the new age Colt McCoy. I love Colt. That's Mr. Dunkin' Donuts. He owned a bunch of Dunkin' Donuts, and that's my guy. But he's
and Ricky Jean.
Yeah, him, Ricky Jean, and Jordan Reed. I think Jordan Reed got a few of those Dunkin' Donuts. But every year, you always see Colt McCoy's name still circling around as a backup quarterback, and he's been making that.
He got starts last year in Arizona.
Arizona.
I think he's the last player left in my draft class, I believe, that's still hanging around getting contracts.
Colt McCoy staying around getting that money, and Chase Daniels staying around getting that money.
It's the best gig on the planet is to be a premier backup quarterback.
Oh, without a question, because they go from premier backup quarterback to offensive coordinators around the league. Just like that happened in Dallas. Like I got my last sack in Dallas was against their offensive coordinator. Now he's the offensive coordinator now.
He's hard to sack as well, just because how small he is, Kellen Moore.
Yeah, I got his ass.
He's tricky to find.
Fellas, let's wrap with this real quick. Let's go around the horn here and put a grade on what you think. Maybe let's do it this way too. How did you feel when you heard the news, and have you changed your mind about it? Let's do it kind of that way.
I'll go first. When I first heard about it, I wasn't surprised. I was like, oh, it really happened, because probably about a month and a half ago, I said, watch we end up with like Carson Wentz. And we ended up with Carson Wentz. So I wasn't that shocked or that surprised about it. I get a grade of C though, just because I know he wasn't plan A or B, maybe not even C. As far as what they wanted to do, but that's what they ended up with. And like Swaggy say, he's the best of the rest. Not the guy you wanted, but he's the best of the rest. So I give him a C for that.
Yeah, I'll go next. I'll go C+. It's a middle of the road trade for a middle of the road team. It's uninspiring. It makes sense. Yes, it's an upgrade. Yes, it makes the team better this year. Is it going to have fans rushing out to buy season tickets? No. But is that what you want from your football personnel moves? Do you want them to be thinking about, the fans, or do you want them to think about wins? I think this team can get some more wins with Carson Wentz. It's just a bit of a boring trade.
When I first heard the news, I said, what the fuck? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Fucking Carson Wentz? Like, out of all the people that we fucking could have got, we got Carson Wentz. And then I have my guys hitting me up in the group chat because I got a bunch of Cowboy fans in my group chat. They talking trash with my best friend, John Manning. He's a Giants fan. He's like, bro, I love to play against Wentz twice a year, So I'm like, bro, I can't believe we did this shit. Like, we could have got Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, like, anybody but fucking Carson Wentz, you know what I mean? But as time went by, I was just like, you know what? Carson is really not that bad. We could have done a whole lot worse. And hopefully we just get the better version of Carson Wentz. that he's displayed over his career. If we could get that real consistent quarterback that can throw for 30 touchdowns and 6 to 8 interceptions, I'll take that from him. If he could get us over the hump and win the division and give us a chance to play in the playoffs, I'll take that. Because if we made it to the playoffs with Taylor Heineke, and we won 7 games with Heineke at the quarterback, Wentz is definitely better than what we had. And hopefully he just stays healthy and plays the way that we need him to play and get us in the playoffs. That's the only thing that we need is a chance to win the big one. And in order to get a chance, you need to make the show. And I think we could win 2 or 3 more games with him and win our division. As long as we can beat Dallas twice and figure out a way to not let their defense destroy us, we'll be okay.
I think it's a solid move. C+, B- in that range, and that's
I'll give it.
And that's who he is, right? A
Yeah.
C+, B- quarterback with the potential to be to be a B+ quarterback. Again, the offensive line was much better here than it was there that last year. I think Indianapolis gets credit for having a good line, like Washington gets credit for having a good defense last year. Like, no, that was 2 years ago. Like last year, Washington had the 9th rated offensive line, and Indianapolis had like 12th. Michael Pittman was their best weapon. So I think he moves into probably the best position he's been in a while, other than the running back last year, who was fantastic.
Amazing. Jonathan Stewart. Yeah, that boy was much CTV.
Listen, this move might actually work out because this is a move that Washington has made that most fans have not liked. Normally, they like the moves they make and they celebrate them, and then they don't pan out. So this one may actually pan out because it's getting panned everywhere. So
this is the George Costanza technique here.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, fellas, thanks for hopping on to do this today. If you're watching at home, come back again tomorrow. Jim Nagy, the Senior Bowl director, will be on, so it ought to be an excellent episode. And thank you for watching today. And fellas, as always, thank you for hopping on today.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks for having
Cheers,
me.
BD.
Guys.
Chad, thank you, buddy.
No worries.